You are entering the temple of the full moon in Libra, which is a mirror moon, a moon of reflection, of beauty, a moon of sacred relationship. I invite you to notice your exhale. Dropping into our body and releasing pressure. We let go of the performance of pleasing, of being perfect, of being productive. Because like her glyph, her sign, that is the scales, Libra is not here to judge you. She is here to rebalance you. To remind you that the harmony in all of your relationships, that includes the harmony in your family relationships, your work relationships, your romantic partnerships, the collective body of this planet itself, it all starts right here. It all starts within. Libra, as the partner, is here to remind us that our needs are holy, and no true partnership can arise from self-abandonment. Now, may this next few minutes together, may this transmission be a lunar sanctuary where you come home to your center and your feminine knowing. But we gotta look in and we gotta take time, we gotta take space, because Libra doesn't shout like her beloved counterpart, like her zodiac partner, which is Aries. Of course, we're here at the full moon in Libra because we just had the new moon in Aries. You can't have one without the other. Libra doesn't shout. Aries is the warrioress, right? But Libra isn't here to rush. She glides. She doesn't demand, she invites. And here she is inviting us into a remembrance of our own balance and of the sacred reciprocity of relationship. To bring all of that down into the everyday life of the modern woman, I want to share the story of one of my clients in her 30s, newly divorced, realizing that for years she has shaped herself to be who her partner wants her to be: agreeable, beautiful, always accommodating. And now she's in this process, as so many of us are, of awakening to what is true for her, what is emanating from her heart. A mother, also a client, recently realizing, this is the story again and again I experience with mothers, recently realizing she has given everything, her identity, her time, her love, her energy, and she has forgotten the art of receiving. Libra is rebalancing this. Or even another client example, a spiritual entrepreneur in a collaborative project who finds herself silencing her ideas to keep the peace. Or, example from another client, woman in the boardroom keeping herself in the good girl code, fearing that her clarity will come off as too much. Libra's archetypal wound of over-harmonizing. These stories are not failures, they are initiations. They are steps on the path of the awakening feminine. They are the voice of Libra knocking at our inner door and saying, you don't have to betray yourself to belong. Because in her most awakened form, she teaches us that we don't ever have to choose between love and truth. We get to have both, but only when we start telling ourselves the truth first. So to dive in, let's drop in with Libra expressed as the goddess Themis, who is the Greek Titaness of divine law, and she held the scales of justice before humanity ever dreamed of a courtroom. This is where the glyph of Libra comes from. She's not just the law, she's the living pulse of reciprocity and relational truth. But Libra is also, of course, ruled by Venus, and Venus is Aphrodite. Of course, Venus is also Inanna. Venus is also Lakshmi. Venus is also Freya. All of the divine feminine lover archetypes and harmonizer archetypes, they evolve from, or they come from this planet, you know, like she is, the planet Venus is where these myths are rooted. Of course, always gods and goddesses are simply nature personified. So Aphrodite is not only our Taurus lover, she is also the higher octave of devotional love. Not just a sensual seductress. We will get into Taurus new moon in 2 weeks. I cannot wait. You know I love the lover. But we're working with a little bit of different energy of Venus, which is the harmonizer of opposites. And she who reminds us that beauty is not surface deep, but it is soul deep. And reminds us that pleasure and peace and partnership are the most highly evolved human technologies and always will be. And that this is part of the sacred medicine that you carry as a woman. And particularly at this time on the planet, when we see and feel so much disharmony, we feel so much. How can we not feel the incredible imbalance of masculine and feminine that has created such destruction on our planet for humans, for animals, for the earth herself? But the lover within is here. She is the partner, but she is also the peacemaker. And she is the one who sticks around when things get tough. When the going gets tough, she is there to show up to her inner work, which often means showing up to the complicated, conflictual dynamics that arise in our partnerships. So with Aphrodite, we want to remember that although she was married to Hephaestus, who was the blacksmith god, her true love was and always has been Aries. Of course, Aphrodite is Venus, the planet, and Aries is Mars, the planet. Mars and Venus can't have one without the other. Divine polarity, that's what full moons are here to bring us into. We are in the opposite of the new moon in Aries and then the full moon in Libra. Here we are, masculine and feminine, dancing together again, seeking harmony, seeking understanding, seeking balance. Aphrodite was always in love with Aries, that warrior, powerful protector that is the essence of like making things happen, right? And she, the essence of feminine love and receptivity. They had the deepest chemistry despite her forced marriage to Hephaestus. And Hephaestus trapped them after hearing about their love affair, but that could not stop this epic love. Between Aphrodite and Aries came several children and have changed that are medicine for today's moment. One being Eros. Eros is that divine feminine Shakti, life force, energy of the dripping nectar of sensuality that is the source of all creation, right? So Eros can, of course, be romantically, can be like the sexual romantic love. It is also the love that creates art. It is the love that creates communities. It is the love that creates romantic partnership. It is the love that creates children, right? So Eros is the dripping nectar of Shakti. That is, in Greek mythology, the child of the merging of the masculine and feminine. That is Aphrodite and Aries. Also, Harmonia was born of this union, the goddess of harmony. And Teros, the god of reciprocal love. That means not the god of like, okay, honey, I'll do whatever you say because I don't have an opinion. Or, oh, I really don't want to do that, but I'm just going to do the thing. Or yeah, this is the 10th time I've cooked you dinner and you still haven't taken me out to dinner. This is the goddess who reminds us that reciprocal love is our birthright, and it starts with us. So this sacred union of masculine and feminine, of Venus and Mars, breeds Eros, life force, breeds harmony, harmonia, breeds Anteros, the god of reciprocal love. Libra is a threshold keeper. She helps us walk between poles, the I and the we. Because the Aries, let's remember the phrase for Aries is I am. And then the phrase for Libra is we are. This balance between the two, that is always the invitation on a full moon, this is the balance between attunement and assertiveness. This is the balance between receiving and giving. Libra within you is inviting you to listen for the middle path. The path of Buddhism, right? The middle road. Not compromise, but co-creation. How many times have I worked with couples who are at the edge, and maybe there's been betrayal, and maybe it's physical, maybe it's not physical, maybe it's emotional disconnection, broken agreements, and one partner wants to just start fresh and the other is aching and needing clarity and accountability and healing. And a typical compromise could look like, well, let's just agree to disagree, or let's not talk about the past anymore. Let's just move on and try harder. But under that, always the wound stays and the silence festers and the disconnection grows. And how many times in your own relationships have you chosen to silence yourself just to avoid conflict, just to keep it going? But Libra within, the true partner, the essence of peacemaking, doesn't settle for surface harmony. She wants deeper truth. So in the case of working with couples, I see that so often, what really needs to happen is we need to pause the performative peacemaking and name and identify our unmet needs without accusation, but with radical honesty, and bring in support. We're not here to do it all, and Libra is the god, or Libra ruled by Venus is about relationship. It is about connection. So receiving the support of a therapist or a coach or a ritual process that holds us accountable to shared truth, so we can stop trying to fix the relationship and really focus on understanding ourselves inside of relationship and knowing that every relationship is just a sacred mirror being held up to you. All relationships are mirrors. All relationships are here to show us the parts of ourselves that we have closed down to, that we have closed off from love. And it is from that place, of course, that Libra shows us that true peace means when we look into the depth and we get real, eventually a new relationship can emerge. Not the old one patched together, but a more truthful one, born of co-creation. And that might mean staying and deepening, and that might mean separating with reverence. But either way, this is Libra in her sacred feminine power. Truth over comfort, co-creation over resignation. One way I see this coming up again and again and again with women is that, we're invited to an event, a family dinner that feels really draining and we don't want to go. But saying no feels like conflict. And we don't want to deal with that. We don't have the energy for that. We don't have time for that. So a compromise could be just forcing ourselves to go and feeling resentful. The old pattern that says, don't rock the boat. But the Libra peacemaker inside of us, that embodiment whispers, find the middle way. So in some cases, especially if you're bleeding, right, it might be like calling and connecting heart to heart and being like, hey, I really care about your feelings. I love you. And tonight I really need to tend to myself. It could be also calling ahead and setting a clear arrival and exit time, bringing nourishment that feels authentic for you, bringing a dish, honoring your own boundaries and your own relationships. That's co-creation. That is the creativity of Venus. It is not the, I'm going to backbend so that your needs can be, so I don't rock the boat and your needs can be met. And in terms of where this lands in your own life, ask yourself now, where are you being asked to renegotiate your relational thresholds? Where are you being asked to renegotiate your own shadow of Libra? So as with all things, Libra has a shadow, and that shadow, as with all shadows, is tender. So woman, maybe you even hold your heart as you listen to this. She is the approval addict. She is refined, charming, she is magnetic, and she is constantly scanning the room to make sure everyone is okay. And what a beautiful concept. What a beautiful impetus. And yet, underneath that performative service is this, I'm not good enough, so I need approval from others to make me feel okay. And this is one of the primary shadows in the feminine realm. One of the primary, maybe one of the most destructive. And one of the hardest to see. Because how often in history were women not necessarily prized for their truth speaking, not necessarily prized for their creativity, not necessarily prized for their intellect, but prized instead for their service to men and children. This looks like in our internal dialogue, I'm not going to bring up my needs because it might make this other person uncomfortable, or I'll just go with the flow, or I don't want to be difficult. But underneath that performance is a woman who's forgotten her value. So be kind to yourself as you hear this, that Libra isn't asking you to go to war. Libra isn't asking you to be Aries, right? Isn't asking you to be like, these are my boundaries. And yet Libra needs Aries. The masculine needs the feminine needs the masculine. This is the nature of the yin and yang. This is the deepest mystery of all feminine teachings, of all mystic traditions, of all alchemical traditions. Boundaried grace, right? We are being asked, you are being asked by this moon to stop weaponizing kindness against yourself, to stop weaponizing kindness against yourself, kindness to others against yourself. And to remember that real peace begins when we stop shrinking to maintain it. We stop getting smaller and quieter to maintain it. And I can tell you, for me, that's incredible. I mean, this is one of my, this is one of my main shadows that brought me to the feminine reclamation work. And this is truly, still comes up for me. I mean, I had in business collaboration, just even this week, I can feel like I'm collaborating with this woman who's just so powerful in her throat chakra. She's so powerful in her truth speaking, and I can feel like those places within me when I'm like, oh, I just want to make things like real nice, or I just want to agree, and how beautiful to have the mirror of this relationship, this collaborative relationship, to be like, oh, that's what's possible. That's the power and integrity that's possible when women speak their truth. Because there is nothing more exquisite than a woman who is centered in herself and who lets the scales of Libra fall where they may. As we dance with Libra and Aries inside of us this full moon, we want to acknowledge that Libra carries that harmonizing, yes, I am here to be present with what is arising. And Aries carries that uncompromising no, that is the protectorship of the masculine. And we will in a minute talk about the way this plays out between men and women, but let's start with ourselves, how this plays out inside of ourselves with our own masculine and our own feminine. This tension that can arise between self-expression of Aries and then co-creation and harmony of Libra. So I want to give an example that is just so present for so many of us. So many of us are boss babes, many of us own our own businesses, or we are creating powerful projects in the world. And this world was made, it's a man's world. It still is very much a man's world. It is a patriarchal world. And women, again, I'll say it again, I say it all the time, like, women have proven we can do it in this world. Like, we can do anything we want. We can be CEOs, we can be president, we can run companies, we can have children and juggle 1,000 balls and clean the house and be the PTA president. Yeah, we've proven it, right? And now it's like we've gone so far in that the scales have tipped so far in the direction of the masculine, the doing, that now the feminine awakening is a rebalancing. It is a remembering. It is a return to the feminine, to the being as a ground for creation. Because whatever our being is, that is what the doing will be perpetuating energetically. So I have a beloved client who is, this came up really strong this past couple weeks, is that she's in the Priestess apprenticeship program that I run, and she's really struggling in her life at the moment because she's in the city and she's like this nature priestess at heart, and she really feels the urge to create a new business so that she can have the sovereignty to live in nature, where her feminine thrives, where her soul thrives, where her true power can bubble up. And yet, like so many of us, she is so skilled and gifted and powerful and forceful. She's a fire being. Like, she can make anything happen. So she's running this badass business in the city. And meanwhile, barely having time for herself, or time to take the time she needs in nature, which is far from where she is, to ground and center as the woman that she is. And yet she's, felt that knee-jerk urge to start another business to fix the thing. And that was creating a lot of tension and urgency in her field. And what ultimately we were able to recognize together, and of course for me it's so wild to see it because I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. I know that place so well, and don't you? Where in order to give our soul the nourishment it needs, we often think we have to do more. We have to rush to fix the problem. So we really anchored back into the value of trust, that the feminine rests in trust. The feminine rests in balance. The feminine thrives when she is given space. And yet, how beautiful that Aries within us, the divine masculine within us, he's the problem solver. He wants to provide for her. He wants to provide for our inner feminine. And yet, often he does that in the way the patriarchal world has shown us to do that, which is overriding the feminine. Which is you're really tired, but you need to create a new business because you need to fix this. So the divine masculine within us showing up to provide and protect our feminine, and yet as a result, repressing her, right? And stressing her the fuck out. So then she's just buried under the to-do list, and our nervous system just gets more and more frazzled. How real is this in my life? How real is this in your life? How real is this in our collective field? Libra within asks us, can we come back into balance? Can we come back into inner relationship with masculine and feminine? Can we come back into harmony first? Before we do anything else, or before we do the thing, can we start with the being? And of course, we've said it before and we'll say it again, that peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of truth. And I do want to bring up something really tender here, which is that, of course, we've been sold a lie, which is really the balance not only of masculine and feminine, but the balance of men and women. And we have been sold a lie in this world as women. We've been sold a lie that men are the enemy, or that to be a powerful woman means you have to fight to be right. Or really the way it comes off, and I love the book The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong, is that women often judge men as being bad women. Because if we judge men by the standard of women, they are bad women. Because they're completely different from us. Like their urges, their physiology, their hormones, their the way that they are wired is just completely different from the feminine. So when we judge another being by the standards that, by our own internal experience, we're missing the point in the peacemaking, in the partnership, right? In the battle between the sexes, we're here to understand that as awakening women, this is a wound that we are responsible for healing. We are the sacred union of Mars and Venus, of Aries and Libra. It is happening within us first. And before we can call in a beloved or a relationship or a president or a CEO who truly sees us, who truly respects the feminine, we have to stop seeing men as broken women and understanding them as an entirely different but deeply human animal. And this is not to excuse unreciprocal relationships or abandoning our truth or putting up with abuse and violence or putting up with governments or organizations that do not respect women. But this is reclaiming our power to relate from wisdom, not warfare. Would we rather be right with our male partners, fathers, sons, bosses, or would we rather be at peace? And yet, we must claim our Aries, we must claim our warrior as, we must claim our boundaries, or we will be the pushover. We will be the shadow weak feminine, right? So finding that balance within is, just the way Aphrodite and Aries found a way to dance their divine polarity. And if they can do it, you can too, baby. So can I. This is the work of the new feminine leader. This is the restoration of sacred relationship between the masculine and the feminine, between men and women, that you are here to walk, whether you are in partnership with men or not, like romantic partnership. We are all here to break down the walls and the boundaries. Now I have an example from my own life, which is I was recently dating a beautiful man of integrity, and what was happening is that he was just coming over. He was like picking me up for the date, and then he was just like coming over to my house, and then it was like, oh, what are we gonna eat? And like he's such a great man, but like ultimately I was like, it was very hard for me to speak the truth, but I had to be like, hey, like we've been at my house a lot, and like I'm like feeding you, and we're just dating, and I am here to be courted. Like I'm really valuable being, and I'm here to be courted, and I'm here to be in reciprocal relationship. I'm here to be in relationship with someone who actually makes my life easier, not harder. I'm not here to mother a man. I'm here to be lifted up and to lift up. So often this shows up as well. God, I just see it again and again and again with so many clients, is codependent mama. Codependent mama. It is so intense to be a mama. You love that being so much. You would do anything for them. You would die for them. And yet what happens when you put yourself last, sister? What happens when you sacrifice the truth, either as their children and then they grow up to be adults? What happens then? Or what happens when you sacrifice your truth and you don't speak like, my son has an addiction, or my daughter needs help with her chronic whatever it is? We pass off our passivity onto our children, which turns into dis-ease within them. Codependent mamas, This is so real for every single mama. We must stand in our truth as the valuing of ourselves. I want to honor one of my incredible priestess apprentices and clients who I sat with her in a session this week. Like literally we sat for an entire hour of our session, and she is about to go back to work. She has a little one, a little baby, about to go back to work, and her mama took the baby for our session, and the baby was crying. Beautiful little one. And mama, if any of you mamas out there, I hear it all the time from mamas, like it is almost unbearable to hear your little one scream. It is almost unbearable. It is like scratching under your skin. And I sat there with this beautiful mama, guided her in meditation to ground and connect with her heart and send energy to her baby, to send energy down so that she could be building the trust in grandma and building their relationship and building her capacity to go back to work. And it was so painful for her. And it was hard, it was challenging to sit there in that situation for anyone. It would be challenging. But for her in that moment, what that meant was that she was breaking the cycle of codependence that she had been raised within. She was empowering a relationship of her child with her grandmother versus, honoring her desire to contribute creatively through her service in the world, through her work. And then for other mamas, this means like never going back to work, right? But always noting where we're giving too much to our children, we're actually teaching them to disrespect us, and ultimately we're teaching them to disrespect themselves. Because as within, so without, with our children. So I invite you to take your hands to the side if you can in this moment, and just to be the scales, to be the balance. Left and right. Inhale, exhale. A living dance of duality that we are masculine and feminine. And in this mudra, I invite you to speak, I am allowed to take up space. I release the fear of being too much or not enough. I am devoted to truth and harmony within me first. Placing the hands on the body. Repeat again these affirmations. I honor the beauty of my boundaries. I honor the beauty of my boundaries. I deserve relationships with reciprocity. And as you breathe, mama, remember, you are not here to be agreeable. You're here to be in alignment. And we wouldn't be true to the essence of the new moon, the full moon, if we didn't talk about shadow. So she is the approval addict within you. She's the part of you that has spent lifetimes performing for love. She knows how to smile when she's tired, how to say yes when her soul screams no, how to shape shift into the version of herself that's most acceptable, likable, digestible, agreeable. She's the good girl, the helper, the peacekeeper, and yet beneath her perfection lies an ache. The ache of being unseen in her truth. And she lives in all of us. Think about the myth of Persephone, one of the most epitomal feminine myths, the myth of the seasons. So first she was the innocent maiden Cora, and she was the one who was adored for her sweetness and her obedience, the one who was mama's girl, the one who was plucked from the meadow because she hadn't learned to claim her sacred no, how to express her rage and walk her descent. And yet ultimately it was that descent that turned her into a queen. Not the approval of her mother or the gods, but it was her initiation into wholeness, coming into the dark underworld and claiming her truth. And this is the part we are being asked to embrace this moon. Releasing the contortionist, releasing the parts of us afraid to disappoint, to be judged or witnessed, seen, visible. This shadow, it's important to remember, it never was a weakness. It never was a failure. It was survival. This was a sacred adaptation by our ancestresses in a world that taught women to be chosen, to be claimed, not to choose themselves. So today, we let that soften. We take off the cloak. In fact, we can think of it as we just take off the silk robe and we soften those parts of us that need to be approved of. We return to the woman we truly are, the woman who doesn't need to earn her value or her place because she already belongs to herself. And we wrap and we close here now. And I want you to hear this. Dear sister, under the grace of this silvery full moon and all of her radiance, remember that your boundaries are beautiful. Your grace is your power, your voice, your needs, your clarity are a gift. They are not a burden. May you walk in beauty, not because the world asks it of you, but because your soul is alive. You're not too much. You're not too tender. You're not too sensitive. You're not too complex to love. You are the partner archetype embodied. You are the living temple of divine feminine balance. And as you reclaim your truth, you become a mirror for others to do the same. Libra full moon sees you. This temple of the partner is open. You are whole. We are whole together. We are in this reclaiming. Tend your sacred temple with beauty and grace. And love her by standing up for your inner child, speaking your truth. Enjoy the reflection questions and invite you to look into your life and where is it you're compromising? Where is it that is not true to who you are? Sister, I honor you in the bravery of your choice to balance the scales of Libra. Blessed be.